I thought I was going to drown at 30. Jesus.
Well, anybody that's watched the show for a while knows that I get a little bit excited when I'm hunting. And sometimes that puts me in some pretty bad situations. Like on this Rocky Mountain goat hunt years ago in Colorado. It was my first Rocky Mountain goat hunt. I was pretty excited, had my recurve. A goat that I had been watching for hours started working up a really steep cliff. I peeked over after waiting for what seemed like an eternity for the goat to come up. I decided I had to peek over. I peeked over, of course, at the same time the goat was coming up. I dropped down, the goat came around, I drew my bow and shot this goat at a slightly quartering to angle. Made a great shot, slid it in right next to the chest, angling all the way through the body of the goat. When the goat turned and ran, in an effort to keep my eye on the goat, you'll see I literally almost run off the cliff. My cameraman is like, Fred, after it was all said and done, he's like, you saw that, right? You know what you just did. And I'm like, what? He goes, you almost ran right off the cliff. And I'm like, no, I didn't. He's like, Fred, you literally had to catch yourself. You almost ran right off a 1,000-foot drop. Just, yep, yeah, you did. I'm like, there's no way. So he showed me the footage and it scared me because I was like, wow, look at that. I almost ran completely off the cliff. So I'm going to share some of these crazy adventures with you. Not so much about the hunts as much as it is the crazy situations that I get myself into sometimes. And really, I guess just how lucky I am to be sharing them with you.
I mean, this is an extreme hunt, some pretty extreme conditions, and it's been awesome.
Well, goat hunts and sheep hunts, well, naturally, you're in some pretty dangerous situations because you're in some rough country. It takes bush planes or boats or all kinds of different ways to get in there, horses. Well, on one desert sheep hunt with my buddy Jake, who was videoing for me, who had videoed me for all kinds of different animals all over the country. Me and Jake were together once again on a desert sheep hunt, and I was trying to get around on these sheep. And the only way to do that, or the only way I thought we could do it, was by going around this tiny little sheep trail that was on the side of the mountain. Now, sometimes in my excitement, I don't think things through. And I started out on this little ledge, and it was thousands of feet straight down. This situation isn't like if you slip, you're not gonna roll to the bottom and be okay. I think you know what I mean. If you slip or slide here, you're not gonna catch on anything. There's nothing to stop you. Your hunts are gonna be over forever. So I start out going around this little ledge, and Jake, who has followed me everywhere, literally goes, first time ever, he said, I'm not going. And it kind of caught me by surprise. I'm like, what? He goes, I'm not going out on that ledge with you. Nope, not gonna do it. So him saying that kind of brought me back to reality a little bit. And I started going out there by myself because I was like, I gotta keep an eye on these sheep. I gotta go around here and see where they're at. So I started going around and I realized that, yeah, Jake's a little smarter than me. I probably need to back off this ledge. It's one of the fun things I love about hunting. I mean, you can get in crazy situations in your backyard. You can get in crazy situations hunting whitetails. That's just the nature of the beast. But it seems like sometimes I tend to get in more crazy situations when I'm in very remote locations or in situations that require a lot of equipment or animals to get to them. Well, in this situation, I was Rocky Mountain goat hunting in British Columbia. I had the most incredible stalk where literally at first my guide was like, no way you're gonna get in bow range. I'm like, I gotta try, I think I can do it. He's like, it's wide open, you've got almost no cover. I don't think you can get bow range. Well, of course that's a challenge to me, so I'm like, I gotta try it. I end up getting the goat, make a great shot on this beautiful goat.
Oh, an arrow, I just seen an arrow sinking in. It's in him, there's an arrow in him.
When I shoot the goat only runs, I don't even know, 40 yards, 60 yards and drops. But as soon as it drops, I realize there's a straight, very steep mountain that leads to this huge crevice where the goat's gonna be unrecoverable. So I run down thinking I'm gonna stop it, and the goat literally rolls me over. Now, this is one of those situations, and the video doesn't quite do it justice. It is super steep, and you can see how this goat's just flipping down the mountain. Well, I try and stop it.
He's going right beside you, see that? He's falling? Oh, Fred just fell.
It bowls me over. I try and grab it again to try and keep it from going, and I cannot.
Yeah, it just about took him out.
this goat ends up rolling down the cliff. Now, the great thing is it doesn't run completely over the cliff. It slides, hits a few big things, gets a cut on its face, and stops before it goes into the huge crevice that's down below. But just like the example of me getting flipped over by the goat, my buddy and the guide were like, that could have been really bad. Like if it would have hung up in your back, in your backpack, if that sheep would have hung up on you, you know what I mean? If it would have gone through your belt loop, you would have maybe slid all the way down that mountain end over end with the goat. So you gotta kind of be careful. So sometimes I get myself in these situations that we call self-inflicted.
Look at how steep this is. I think it's hard for people to realize. I'm just gonna lift my feet up and you can see, you can just friggin' slide right down this stuff.
Well, here's a beautiful mountain goat I just shot. You can see just a beautiful, beautiful goat.
Now, over the years, I have been pretty dang lucky. And most of these situations, call them self-inflicted, where I do stupid things like trying to grab a goat or almost run off a cliff or go out on a ledge that I shouldn't go out on. It's my fault. I shouldn't have put myself in that situation. And this next one's kind of the same. Trent came running in and he goes, there's a bear at the dumpster and he's pulling out all the food from the dumpster. And all I did, I was trying to be tough, and I said, I ought to go out there and slap that bear on the butt.
All right, the bear's on the dumpster. I'm gonna try and sneak over and pop him in the butt.
Now my buddy Billy Robb from Red Creek Outfitters in Utah happened to be right there. And he goes, I don't believe you'll do it. Well, you guys all know how that goes, and ladies, some of you know how that goes. But I was like, oh, I'll do it. I'll do it. So, not like I'm in camo, I'm in a white t-shirt, I think I have my Carhartts on, and I go slipping around, and I'm using like the backhoe, then I'm using the dumpster, and I'm gonna slip up, and I'm gonna slap this bear in the butt. Billy Robb is videoing. It sounded really good when I said it. As I got closer and closer, I was like, man, it's a young bear, but still, even though it's maybe a 2.5-year-old bear, if I slap in the butt, its first reaction is going to be to slap back, right? Bears fight each other all the time. So as I'm getting closer and closer, I'm like, I haven't scared the bear yet. Like, it's put up or shut up. Like, I have to do it now. So with the kids watching on, which, again, maybe not the smartest decision I've ever made, I slip up on the bear, and when he puts his head in there, I run up and I slap the bear in the butt.
Bob, you're right on the butt! Whoa! That's like an Indian duck, too! Did you hear it? Whack!
I got it, man.
The butt! Whoa! That was awesome! How many people have counted coup on a bear? Whoa! That was awesome!
Some situations, though, are not my fault at all. Like on this brown bear hunt. I was actually on this hunt with the late Dwight Chu, who was the editor of Bowhunter magazine. Super guy, great friend of mine. And we were doing this hunt together, and we would split up. He would go one way, I would go the other way. Well, we'd had one boat break down on this trip, so we were down to one boat. So I decided, hey, let's hunt upstream because we're down to one boat. So the first clip you'll see is actually us going downstream, and then after talking about it, it was like, well, let's go upstream because we only have one boat. If something happens to that, we can at least float downstream and head back to camp. So we're going upstream, and it had one of those little jets, not a prop, a little jet motor. We're going up, we end up getting too much sand or something in the motor shuts down. So the guy's like, well, we're okay because we're upstream, we can float back to camp. So we start going back to camp. Well, I'm up at the front of the boat watching for bears. I've got my recurve bow in my hand, I got my pack on, and if we see a bear, I'm ready to go. And it's cold, the weather's very chilly. We've got heavy jackets on, gloves on, a toque, I'm wearing waders, so we're dressed for cold weather. Well, when the boat conks out, we start drifting downstream, and everything's going fine until we come around and we see what's commonly called a sweeper, and that's a tree that's down over the river. And the boat is now drifting toward the sweeper. Well, the boat goes sideways, it hits this sweeper, this tree, and the current starts pushing the boat, just like that. Well, the first thing that happens is my cameraman, who is super smart, he jumps off the back of the boat, quick, like leaps off the back of the boat and makes it to shore. Now, unbeknownst to us, right at shore there on the corner of the river, it was like 12 to 15 feet deep, pretty dang deep, but he leaps ashore. As soon as he leaped ashore, the boat ends up catching the rest of the water, and boom, the boat flips just like that. I get splashed into the water. I've got waders, gloves, a heavy jacket, and I sunk like a stone.
Right, dude? Hand? I got my goddamn waders on. I almost didn't get out from under that cocksucker.
Only thing that saved me is as I'm literally getting dragged underwater, trying to swim, and I cannot. I realize I'm not gonna make it. I grab a branch and I start pulling myself up. There's literally a tree that was down, and I start pulling myself up it underneath the water.
I thought I was gonna drown, dude.
Unbelievably horrible, scary experience. I come up, my cameraman can't really get in the water, and he's trying to help. He's also trying to run the camera, so the footage obviously is a little crazy. Our guide rode with the boat all the way under. It came out the other side, stayed up, and then that boat ended up rolling over, so we were stranded.
I thought I was gonna drown right there, dude.
The crazy thing is, it was freezing, and almost instantly after I got out of the water, I started getting kind of hypothermic. Fortunately, my cameraman had a lighter in his pocket. If he hadn't have, it may not have gone so well.
Lost my bow and my pack. Held onto the log and feeling pretty happy to be here.
But he had a lighter in his pocket, bug spray, started a fire. We were able to warm up, build a lean-to, and had to spend a pretty uncomfortable night before, fortunately, some other people came down the river, spotted us, and took us back to camp. It seems that I have bad luck with boats is what I finally figured out, especially in remote areas. On this next clip I'm going to show you, I was on a grizzly hunt again along the coast, and the weather was unbelievably bad. We were trying to get back to a boat that we had left stranded because the tide had gone out, plus the weather was super rough, and we ended up having to hike around and get back to camp. We went back in to try and get the boat, and it was really bad. Real sketchy, and we made it out, but it was pretty dang close to not making it out. Check out some of this crazy footage. If it wasn't for these guys' skill, literally in dangerous conditions with huge waves breaking over, it was getting a little sketchy. We'll leave it at that.
Hang on!
Holy shit. Lift your motor up!
Well, on the same trip where we stranded the boat, where I was showing you some of the crazy footage from trying to get the boat unstranded, there are some crazy situations just happen when you're hunting big game, dangerous game, and it's something you're not the top of the food chain. Well, what I didn't know when we were slipping up on this really big grizzly bear is that it was literally laying on the carcass of an animal. So what freaked me out is when this giant bear stood up right in front of me. I wasn't ready for it. My guide was back behind me a little bit, and when I saw this bear stand up, I freak out. Bear goes back down to where I can't see it. Guide comes running up, cameraman comes running up. I'm like, the bear's right here. He's right here. And the bear stands up again. Well, I shoot the bear goes down, stands up, and I shoot the bear again.
Don't shoot.
Bear goes down. I literally know it's down. But this is an embarrassing thing to admit, and I'm going to share it with you because I don't mind being embarrassed. But I was so excited. I had read Fred Bear's field notes growing up. Fred Bear was literally one of my heroes, and it was the first grizzly bear hunt I'd ever been on. So it's hard to explain that feeling, but I was so excited that I had just shot a grizzly bear that I freak out. And you know, I'm not calm at all.
I just got a grizzly bear! It's down! It's down! It's down!
And the guide, if you look at the guide here, and this is the embarrassing part of the situation, understand I'm in front of the cameraman and in front of the guide, so I don't see what's going on. But when I start flipping out and so excited, you know, I got a grizzly bear, when I watch the footage later, you can see the guide, and he's got his hands out, and he's going like this. I've done that to my kids, and that means be quiet, shut up, sit down, just be quiet. Well, I don't realize that that's what he's doing. I turn around from being excited and I see the guy doing this, and all I see is the hand up in the air. I think that's the international symbol for a high five. I think he's trying to give me a high five. This is so embarrassing. So I grab his hand and he's literally trying to shake my hand off. He actually wants to keep both hands on that big gun in case this bear charges us. Fortunately, the shots were fatal and the giant bear went down. And to give you an idea, it was a 24 and 15/16 inch skull. For those that are interested, it was a really big bear. I think at the time it was in the top 10, and right now I think it's still in the top 20 taken with a bow at Pope & Young that have been registered. So it was a pretty dang big grizzly bear. Well, I showed you a situation where the guide was trying to stay ready, but I was holding his hand. That sounds weird. The high five is what I thought he was trying to do. In this situation, I spotted a bear and I said, "Oh wow, look, there's a brown bear." And my guy said, "Oh, it's got cubs with it." This is another crazy situation I was in. We were in a raft. I didn't have a firearm. I'd brought my recurve and it was taken down in the bottom of the boat. So my cameraman in this situation was sitting right behind me. The guide, Braun, was sitting up in the front right of the boat, and another client was sitting rear right. Well, when we saw the bears, we did what everybody does when they're in a canoe or a raft. Everybody does what? Well, we stopped paddling. Everybody lifted their paddles up to look at the bear. Well, unfortunately, the river turned and takes our boat and turns it to where I am now closest to the bear. And I'm like, I don't like this situation at all. I don't want to be closest to the bear. Well, what happened is the sow decides she needs to charge us because the cubs did not leave when she left.
Get out of here.
The sow charges across the water, and you'll see literally runs over one of her cubs charging us. Braun was able, amazingly, to get the 500, literally he's shooting a 500 pistol, get it out, just barely enough time to cock it and shoot right in front of this bear, and fortunately divert the charge. Now, the absolute crazy part of this situation is he shot right in front of that bear, but he was very calm. The bear turned, and you'll even see, even though the raft is taking us past the bears, this bear turns almost completely around to look at us, making sure that we are still not going or not a threat to the cubs. And I said to Braun, why didn't you shoot that bear? And Braun looks at me and goes, Fred, well, my hope was to try and divert the charge by shooting in front of the bear. But if it wouldn't have turned around, with my next shot, I was going to shoot it off you because you were closest to the bear. And he said that way too calmly. So that was another situation. That wasn't self-inflicted. I didn't do a thing. We were just 4 guys in a boat cruising along the river, and that bear charged us. So had we been fly fishermen or just hobby rafters and wouldn't have had a firearm to be able to turn that charge, that could have been a very, very different situation.